Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. This is the Video Best Bets Part 2. We're going to check in with Preston and Bryan and get their best bets. If you missed the earlier best bets, check out the other video where Tony, Ralph, and myself had our video best bets. Preston, you're going Friday night. We teased it in the last video. Wisconsin, Florida. Go ahead. The floor is yours, my man.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I had mentioned in the video, I thought it's moved to 2 now, and I think that's too much. I had the game lined at pick, so getting a bucket, I think, has the value as far as the number goes. And you really dive into the actual personnel and coaching for one. Florida, Mike White, pretty new coach. They've never been to the tournament before this year. None of their players that are playing have played in a tournament game before Eastern Tennessee State and before the UVA blowout, which, I mean, Virginia just gave up and Florida ran with it, and they think they're the greatest thing. They won by 30. They're in the Sweet 16. I don't trust anything about that versus guys like Nigel Hayes and Bronson Koenig who have won a national championship and have that experience. And so I'm all over Wisconsin. I think getting the 2 points and just being way more experienced and I think emotionally in control is going to be a massive edge and, you know, potentially even a coaching edge too there. And so I'm going with Wisconsin +2, and I couldn't tell you any other reason other than that. And I think it's good, though. I think, you know, if that cashes, you know, 55% of the time, then everyone's happy. So I'm taking it.
Yeah. If that, you know, the line's sitting at 2, if it goes up anymore, you know, might have to switch off of it and look at Wisconsin with the value, but we'll see what happens there. Yep. Good luck with that one. I know either way I'll be set up like you will be, Bryan, in that one. Bryan, your best bet, you're going to Saturday. You're heading to your hometown. Are you taking them or are you going against them? Looking at Washington and Cleveland on Saturday night.
I know you had to play, your best bet, I believe, was involved the Washington Wizards game on Friday. And to play off of that, I like the situation on Saturday. We've got a Washington Wizards team who's lost at home against Cleveland twice this year, but I watch all the Cavaliers games when they're playing the upper echelon teams in the East. And Washington.
Do you watch them whenever they sit everybody?
Actually, I do, and they're terrible. I believe they're 0-10 when LeBron doesn't play. But we've got the situation where obviously Washington wants this game. The first 2 times they played, they came up short, but they played them really tight. Cleveland had to make some nice runs in that game, and as Ralph had mentioned, this broke a 17-game winning streak for Washington. So now they've got an extra advantage coming into this game, a little revenge in this situation. And you know, Cleveland plays Friday night against Charlotte. They're at Charlotte, and as you mentioned, Washington gets to play the Brooklyn Nets. So obviously, coming into it at least, we were assuming that the Nets aren't, or excuse me, that Washington won't have as tough of a game. And Cleveland is the second of back-to-back in Cleveland games. And so far on the season, back-to-back Cleveland games, Cleveland's 5-9 straight up, 4-10 against the spread. They just have not done well in back-to-back games. They don't have a lot of depth. Every time they do seem to sign somebody, he gets hurt. So they still have problems with depth, even though they're a lot better off than they were earlier in the season. I expect the line to be in about 6.5 range, something like that. And I'm assuming everybody's going to play for Cleveland, which is always a concern. And I think the league put their foot down about it this last week. So hopefully they get the full slate here. But I like Washington. Washington's a team that gives 100% every time they're out there, especially when they're playing the elite teams. And they need to know they got to be able to beat Cleveland. They haven't been able to beat Cleveland. This is a big game for them.
In worst case, if they do sit people, you're sitting with +6.5, and it'll be, you know, Washington -2 or whatever. So you're not in a bad spot.
If you can get that 6.5, which right now the bookmakers, and we talked last week on our SB Nation
That's true.
radio
They're not even
show,
putting it up.
They're not putting the numbers up overnight because they have no clue anymore what these teams are doing. So you can't speculate knowing that, you know, well, that's the worst of the number, you know, and you could only get better.
It's not like they're bringing a lot of money right now with the NBA anyway. So I wouldn't even wait until late after everybody announces their starting lineups and put it up an hour before.
But good stuff, guys. And don't forget, every Tuesday at Wager Talk, it's $2 Tuesday. We pick one capper, and we offer his best bet for just $2. It's a great way to introduce yourself to that capper, or if you're totally new to Wager Talk, it's a great way to introduce yourself to the site. Check it out each and every Tuesday at WagerTalk.com. Enjoy the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. We'll be back next week breaking it down for you some more here at WagerTalk.com. Enjoy the games.